Brand Story presents Fireside Chat question and answer on Atmanirbhar Bharat and contribution of CSR for making new India. Atmanirbhar Bharat, self-reliant India, is the vision of the Prime Minister of India, Mr. Narendra Modi, for making a self-reliant nation. The first mention of this came in the form of the Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan in the form Self-Reliant India mission during the announcement of the coronavirus pandemic related economic package on the 12th May 2020. This self-reliant policy does not aim to be protectionist in nature, and as the finance minister clarified, self-reliant India does not mean cutting off from the rest of the world. The law minister, Mr. Sri Ravi Shankar Prasad, said that self-reliance does not mean isolating away from the world. Foreign direct investment is welcome, technology is welcome, and self-reliant India translates to being a bigger and more important part of the global economy. I will be talking to various policymakers, economists, CSR professionals, academicians, and research scholars to understand the strategies post COVID 19 as to how our economic activities are on track and also to have different strategies for economic growth. And today, I have the privilege of having my guest, Mr. Ashish Sachdeva, who is the founder president of Green Dream Foundation, a new age NGO based in New Delhi. And before committing himself completely to the service of the planet and the people, he also worked in senior leadership positions across different multinationals corporation for over a decade. His mission has been to create an educational and socially responsible advocacy platform for people to empower and engage their peers in environmental activities and engage their and to ensure a healthier, cleaner, and more sustainable planet for businesses, customers, employees, homeowners, and families. Green Dream Foundation was founded in 2008. GDF is focused on generating awareness about environmental issues through effective channels. It engages with communities through social media, primarily Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and also conducts innovative IEC activities, workshops, and sessions to educate people, drive action on ground, and then measure results. Under Mr. Ashish's leadership, the organization has launched various unique awareness campaigns that drive action at ground level. Ashish has delivered thought-provoking talks at the global leadership forums and around environment, CSR, and sustainability. He is also a TEDx speaker, and recently he gave a talk in IIT, Indian Institute of Technology. And I welcome Mr. Ashish Sachdev to this evening show.
Thank you so much, Sandeep ji, for creating this platform and running this series of fire chats. I've been in fact following all these fire chats all this while, and the kind of diverse conversations that have been coming up, because you're not only
Yes.
bringing one side of the table, but it's more like a round table, where you brought NGOs, corporate leaders, policymakers,
Yes.
everyone on one side. So it takes a lot of effort, takes a lot of commitment to make it happen. So firstly, thanks to you and congratulations to Brand India.
Welcome, sir.
Secondly, I think today's theme, as soon as you told me about it, it struck very automatically, because the theme is very much in line with what we have been going through and what we want to achieve in the coming days. Atmanirbhar Bharat is a campaign which has been officially launched in India a few weeks ago, but it's something which has been ingrained in our genes for a long, long time. Our Honorable Prime Minister, Mr. Modi, has time and again given us reminders of the much needed campaigns, starting with the Swachh Bharat mission in 2015. And then we have seen the kind of growth of the waste management sector. Obviously, there are a lot of challenges even now, and if there are no challenges, there are no opportunities, right? So challenges definitely exist, but I think the kind of attention that has come to this forum since then, and now Atmanirbhar Bharat, Make in India, kind of supporting those other initiatives in parallel. That's the beauty of this. When these initiatives are launched, it's not that
Yes.
these initiatives are in silos or they are focusing only on one sector or theme. These initiatives are cross-cutting across all the existing initiatives as well. Because we talk about, let's say, so like our NGO Green Dream Foundation works on multiple themes. We work on waste management, air pollution, climate change, water conservation, and there has been felt the need time and again wherein we want to drive social entrepreneurship. We want more leaders to come in. We want more youngsters to get into this, create jobs, drive livelihoods, while driving social inclusions for people at the bottom of the pyramid. So it's a welcome move. And again, thank you so much for creating this platform, and I'll be more than happy to take the questions that you have come up with today.
Yeah. So my first question to you will be: you have been part of the India's CSR journey. How do you see it? Has it achieved the right direction since you have founded Green Dream Foundation in 2008, and after that there has been lot of amendments, changes, and now COVID-19. You have seen last 6 months how difficult it has been, and I want you to throw light on this.
Sure. So, a very valid question. I think since the time the Companies Act 2013 came into the picture, and again, CSR has been a concept that a lot of companies like the Tatas always followed, for decades. And making that as an official concept, being followed in rest of the world already, and bringing it in an official format in India was a very important move for tapping onto the funds of the corporates, which get their revenues and incomes from the people of this country. And this is a great way to give it back to them. Uh, how the CSR perspective has changed even over the last 5 or 6 years, there has been tremendous progress. There is a report that I follow every year. The KPMG publishes an annual report of the top 100 companies by gross revenue, and the kind of facts that come out there. It's never surprising. We are able to experience those facts around us when we're working on the field throughout the year. So if you see, there has been more disclosure, more formal policies being made, and if we just to put into numbers into perspective, I think 76% companies spent 2% or more during the last financial year, which is a whopping 100% increase in the amount of spend. So there are some interesting trends there, which I will address later in the chat today. But looking at the cumulative expenditure over the last 5 years, it is more than 35,000 CR. Now the point is, if can that fund be utilized in a more strategic way? How have we seen that organizations having their own CSR foundations versus collaborating with other implementation agencies like NGOs on the ground has changed? I think that shift is very important, and we have seen some of the shift, because I think the companies are realizing it's very important to collaborate with the organizations working on the ground who have the real knowledge about the issues, instead of trying to reinvent the wheel, because a lot of these problems have already been known to these organizations who are committed to these different causes, whether it's health, education,
Yes.
environment, uh, so a variety of those issues. And I think when the coronavirus situation happened, the country took immediate account of how to gather these funds on an urgent basis, and then the PM Cares Fund was launched. In our country, obviously, there also been a lot of debate around it. I'll not get into that, but the point is, uh, the money being sent there and the commitment from the corporates to urgently, react to that particular situation by tapping into those funds, and not only just giving it to the PM Cares, they also collaborated with a lot of NGOs. Like in our case, we collaborated with a couple of foundations as well, and we were able to carry out the desired work of supporting the migrant workers, the daily wages, and after rounds of notifications that were floating, because every time a notification will come in from the Ministry of Corporate Affairs, there'll be some doubts, there'll be some questions, and eventually, they rolled out a clarification after the stakeholders reached out to them as to what are the expenditures which are permissible under CSR versus not. And what was mentioned as permissible was, obviously the contribution made to the PM CARES Fund, contribution made to the State Disaster Management Authority, or contribution made
Yes.
for, the welfare of daily wages or migrant workers, or anything which is under item 1 to 7 of the schedule 7 of the Corporate Act. So, how this entire thing would have, when we were sitting in February or January, let's say this year, we were expecting a very different year, not only for our own NGO, but also for the entire sector, because of the kind of focus that was coming in after the revival, or you can say the renewal of the government. A lot of focus was going to the existing initiatives, like again, the Swachh Bharat or Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao, or the health-related initiatives. But no one ever expected what was about to happen in March in India, and that completely, 6 months of this year are already gone, and a lot of those projects have not even started that were envisioned to be started in the month of February. And we know the obvious reason is COVID-19. So now, even though a lot of those projects have not been cancelled, some of those projects have been deferred, which is great news. The companies are being patient. They don't want to, because when they agreed on these projects, they didn't do it just like that. There was a lot of research that went into, a lot of discussions went into it, a lot of resources that went into it. And now, while we are now going towards the new normal and we want to build back better, I think those projects will evolve better in a way that with the angle of COVID-19 added into them, the angle of tackling pandemics added into them. So even if let's say the project was for environmental sustainability, now we are adding factors or parameters related to the health, the sanitation, and that is very important. I think agility is the way forward for the industry. If they want to stick to the kind of projects that they have been doing, they could do that, but I don't think it will create the desired impact in the current situation. They have to be very agile, and some of our partner organizations. You had Brigadier Rajiv Williams the other day as well. We have been
Yes.
working very closely with him and his organization, the Jindal Stainless Foundation, and the kind of support and agility that their team has shown. I'm really, really thankful to them, because it's not for them. It's not about just spending the CSR funds. It's about creating real impact with the organizations, who have the real capability to do so. So I think they have been setting some examples which could be a game changer in the entire industry, and such initiatives are definitely the way forward.
Every year, $4.5 billion or 25,000 crores is available from the corporate social responsibility, that is CSR kitty. How can this fund be properly utilized that will change our country, India? And if you go to the website of the Indian Corporate Affairs, you will find for last 5 years about 50,000 crores have come. And
Yeah.
how you see with a country with a population of 1.38 crores, this fund is going to, you know, change the perception of this country.
I think definitely one is the perception side, and one is also the ground reality that we want to change, because this is not a small budget. It may look like a very small budget in terms of when you compare it to the other funds or relief packages being rolled out by the government of India. But if you look at 25,000 crores, that's a huge amount. And what could really drive an impact and really create action on the ground? My only mantra here will be creating partnerships with NGOs, create more and more partnerships, uh, bring formal monitoring procedures to it, and align them to the sustainable development goals. Now, whatever I have been saying is no rocket science. This is we have seen an increase on all these three things that I just mentioned over the last couple of years specifically. The number of companies which are having their own CSR foundations have gone up, from 6 in 2014 to 18 as of 2019. So their own CSR foundations are also increasing. But interesting fact to look at here is that against the 21% companies that implemented their CSR projects directly, only 7% have reported to have chosen this mode of implementation in 2018-19. Now, this clearly shows that they're doing more partnerships than ever before, which is a
Yes,
very positive sign. Now,
positive.
there's no harm in having your own foundation as a company, you are X Communications, so you created X Communications Foundation, great. Now, but to get the real work done, I think those partnerships are important. And also, we've seen that not all companies want to keep their eggs in the same basket, so they're creating partnerships with multiple firms for different expertise, especially when they're trying to hit different sustainable goals. So I think this is a clear sign that the industry is recognizing the strength of, again, I'll mention the SDG goal number 17, which is partnerships for the goals. So, and there was a reason why it was added when those goals were introduced 5 years ago. So I think that is the way to go. There is a lot more I can mention, but I think that will be the catalyst in really driving impact on the ground and making sure that these thousands of crores are really reaching the people and creating the desired environmental and social impact that can be measured objectively.
My next question is, what should be the role of corporations in ensuring a sustainable tomorrow through inclusive growth?
They have a huge role. However, I will mention something that I have been uh, thinking, practicing, and also preaching to a lot of people recently. When we say CSR, we say it's corporate social responsibility, and I think there are three CSRs that need to run in parallel. One is the corporate social responsibility. The second is the citizen social responsibility, and the third is the council social responsibility. If these three social responsibilities run in parallel, the we'll definitely be able to achieve a sustainable tomorrow. And also, I think the definition of sustainability needs to be redefined. It is, a lot of times when we think about sustainability, we are either thinking about environment or either thinking about, oh, is it financially viable? I think
Yes.
triple bottom line
Yeah.
is something that will drive the true sustainability. And that's why all these CSR initiatives have to strike a balance between social, environmental, and financial impact. The spend on, you're looking at the trends that I also shared. Uh, if you look at it, the top three activities where the CSR funds are being spent in India at this moment are, an order of the amount spent from top to bottom, are education, health, and environment. Now, even though environment is in the top three, it is just contributing to 13% of the overall spend. So you can see that the CSR spendings in India are looking a little skewed, and we need to spend more and more on initiatives which are focusing again on environment, education, health, and obviously health is a factor that is going to be a high point of attention for days to come, or you can say even for years to come. Whereas when you look at the top uh, domain where the CSR funds are being spent, is education. Now that education currently, we don't have the data available as to that education is STEM education, is it environmental education, is it social education, or is it about sensitizing about a particular campaign? But that generally takes around more than 30 to 35% over the last couple of years is what we have seen as a trend. So I think Sandeep has just dropped off, and while he joins in, I'll ponder a little more upon this point of what is the role of corporations in ensuring a sustainable tomorrow. I think when corporates create stories which are high impact and sustainable, and does not matter if that story was created for 10 people or 10,000 people. If it's high impact, those results will be visible, and those results create an inspiration for a lot of other corporations as well as governments to step forward. We've always seen that great initiatives also implemented by the corporations are in partnership not only with NGOs but also with the government bodies like the urban local bodies, when they jump in together. So everyone pulls in the best of the resources and try to deliver a high impact story which drives the triple bottom line. Now, a lot of times people ask me that, what exactly is the triple bottom line? And because generally, in the typical business world, we have heard about the bottom line or the top line. So, what is the triple bottom line? I think it's, as simple as accounting for all the three parameters and not just looking at revenue as a parameter, because you might be doing great as a revenue, but if your initiatives are not environmentally and socially sustainable, they will die down. At the same time, one thing that I'm very happy to see from the corporates increasingly is that they're trying to make sure that there's a sustainability even of the projects at the end of the project duration. So let's say if the project is committed for 1 or 2 years, then they want to ensure that even after they exit that particular project, if they have to, then the project is no more dependent on the funding from the organization. Uh, that's a great sign because this pushes every stakeholder in the process to think about this from day one, that if I am going to deploy a project and I'm going to deploy 10 people in it and all other kinds of resources that go in, how I'm going to make sure and create a structure where this runs on its own. And that's where the sustainability factor comes in. How do I ensure that even if after 2 years we kind of just stop funding this project from a financial perspective, this project has become self-sustainable, self-reliable in every sense. And I think the more stories like that get created, replicating them is never a difficult idea, and we always don't need to reinvent the wheel. Although India in itself is not a country. I say it's a continent. There are different challenges when you work in Uttar Pradesh versus when you work in Tamil Nadu versus Maharashtra or versus Jammu and Kashmir, or even the northeastern cities. So the challenges are very different. There are cultural issues, or you can say challenges. There are language restrictions. The ways of operating of different states are very, very different. But I think if there is merit and complete commitment between the corporate and the NGO, then that's those stories are easily replicable in any part of the country or the continent called India. So. I think we'll just Sandeep might be just dialing in quickly. I think he lost internet. In times of technology, it always challenges us. This week itself has been a challenge for me. I've been on so many calls, and that also reminds me that we are coming up with projects where we are going to uh, make enablements from a technology perspective for a lot of people that we have been working with on the ground, whether it's waste pickers, daily wages, because the education has been harshly hit due to COVID. The kids wanting to go to school, learn, have been restricted because they don't have access to the basic technology to get that done. So, and again, all of this is possible because of partnerships. If we as an organization, Green Dream Foundation, completely rely on partnerships, for getting more and more work done across different geographies. To give you an example, while Sandeep joins in, I think Sandeep has just dialed in now again. Welcome,
Yeah,
Sandeep.
yeah,
So while you were not here, I continued sharing some more thoughts on the same question. So I think
yeah.
we can move on to the next question.
Next question is, what are the dynamics of self-reliant India?
Oh, that's a lovely question. So the dynamics will completely be, implementing projects that promote sustainability and social entrepreneurship, like I said, at the end of the project. In fact, I mentioned this, while you dropped off as well, that, when whatever projects we are implementing, sustainability also has to be kept in mind from a project duration perspective. So let's say if a company is getting into a project in a specific location in partnership with the NGO, for let's say 2 years or 3 years, I think the sustainability has to be defined from the day one. That means that when they pull off their hands in terms of funding after 3 years, will that project be able to sustain? And if the answer is no, then that project is not worth taking up. We have to ensure that whatever investments are made, let's say if you're trying to solve a particular problem, you created a project, you deployed a few people, you deployed resources. So that initial capital, initial mobilization definitely is very important, and that's where CSR plays a role. But I don't think it's CSR's responsibility to keep sustaining those expenses. The NGO has the entire responsibility to create that as a successful business model as well, while driving the triple bottom line, so that more and more social entrepreneurs are created. If that is happening, the CSR is creating ripple effects. Otherwise, it's just a drop in the ocean. And good news is that more and more companies are taking cognizance of this. In my discussions with a lot of CSR leaders, The concepts of sustainability are ingrained. They are aligning everything, not just from a financial sustainability, but to all the SDGs of United Nations. So I think those dynamics are going to be a game changer for CSR in India.
Both Atmanirbhar Bharat and Make in India are great ideas, and many feel that they're misinterpreted or due to vested interests or due to lack of communication or due to lack of understanding. But I would say since Atmanirbhar Bharat has recently been launched last 2.5 months, many say that Make in India also started with a buzz, but the it has a right vision, but the implementation is very slow. Kindly throw light on this subject.
So definitely, like I mentioned in the initial part of the call, these are great ideas, or you can say abhihans indeed. However, it's important to highlight that it is not the sole responsibility of the CSR funds to drive these initiatives completely. Yes, for sure, they are great catalysts, and they should continue to play that role. We have experienced and implemented ourselves multiple projects, even when these terms of Atmanirbhar Bharat did not exist, but we are glad it has got recognition. That we implemented projects that were preventing labor migration, and we were focusing on creating long-term livelihoods.
Hmm.
Obviously, during COVID-19, we were trying to help them with short-term essential groceries or safety gear, but that doesn't create livelihood for them. The real Atmanirbharta for them is in is in educating them, is in giving them skills, is involving them into projects which are sustainable, and all this happens and starts with capacity building. So, and I think fostering partnerships with implementation agencies to create centers of excellence would go a long way, because once these centers of excellence are created, you've created, uh, a complete project which has proven to perform and solve certain issues of the society. Then the government also steps in generally. The urban local bodies jump in, and that's where the scale starts to come in. When state level people get involved, the cabinet people get involved, different authorities get involved. So I think it's not about whether that CSR initiative could create Atmanirbharta for 10 people or 100 people. It's about creating that Atmanirbharta in real sense. We have to be very careful about this fact. I'll tell you one thing. It's very honest observation on the ground. Whenever a new Abhiyan gets launched, people try to imbibe that in everything that they're doing.
Yes.
So, take an example: the television advertisements. At
Hmm.
the end of most of them, it's like we are driving Atmanirbhar Bharat, or we are make in India, right? Or and then obviously, I love the fact how our media has adapted to the COVID situation. Every second ad, not every second, I think 90% of the ads are connecting to your safety or health, even though
Yes.
they were not highlighting it earlier. Whether it's to eat, eating almonds or sanitizer or detergents,
Yes.
everything. So so it's good, but it can also be misleading at times.
Yeah.
So, one of the things that again we worked on since the unfortunate COVID outbreak was cutting misinformation. I think that's very important. I think brand leaders like yours and a lot of other brand leaders, they should guide people that, how can they cut misinformation, because a lot of times people get driven away. I had also seen that when COVID-19 happened, when we were standing in the queue for getting a groceries, every second guy was talking about a way to procure masks and sell them, or procure sanitizers and sell them. Every second guy had stories on selling sanitizers. I'm like, oh my god, like how do I validate? There is no trademark, there is no certification on those bottles. Yes, I could trust some bigger companies who have some ISO level standards, who have mentioned that they're certified by certain institutions, but there was so much panic around it that people just were buying anything and everything. People knew that there are N95 masks, but no one knew what is KN95. Like so many masks available, which it says KN95. No one knows
Hmm.
what is it. People also didn't know that surgical masks are not the way to go, and it is really costing our environment really badly. Even now, a lot of people are wearing surgical masks, which are not needed for a common person like you and me. We can just go for reusable, washable masks. Primarily
Yes.
from a perspective, it will just save us money, but more importantly, you're not dumping it because every of one of that mask cannot be recycled. It has
Yes.
to be either incinerated, causing air pollution, or buried, causing land pollution. So I think slowly and gradually that campaign picked up. Ministry of Health also jumped in. We were also working on our side, and a lot of people came up with a lot of questions. Always happens, but we were able to drive that. So again, coming back to the point, I think Atmanirbhar Bharat and Make in India are great initiatives if done with the real intent. And I think where it really fails, when you mentioned the word faulty implementation, I think the enforcement bodies have to keep a track on these things. uh, I'll give you an example before we move on to the next question. I'll not be able to mention the name of the companies. People can go and Google it. uh, so during the COVID-19 lockdown, if in fact a lot of products were getting launched, that you put your item or food or anything under this thing, it will get sanitized or it will get
Okay.
sterilized. Or you put it in this oven kind of a thing, it will get sterilized. uh, and thousands of people, including reputed hospitals, started buying them. When we asked what are the certifications in place, and when we tried finding it out, number one, the ICMR guidelines were incomplete. Uh, uh, Ministry of Health was not aware about anything like that happening. The Competition Commission of India, everything, who should be aware about a new product like that in a critical situation being sold, no one was aware. But yeah, it was driving Atmanirbhar Bharat. Product was made in India. Product was solving the problem of COVID-19. So eventually, after doing a lot of scientific research along with a team of experts, we took it up, to the Delhi High Court, and finally an order was rolled out wherein the government of India, including Ministry of Consumer Affairs, has now been asked to look into this and take action and create guidelines as to what should be the guidelines for. Because I understand COVID was a new situation, so creating products for that was also a new situation. But we need to have those norms quickly, otherwise people tend to misutilize that term. If anyone wants to read more about that incident, they can just type Green Dream Foundation on Google, and the first two news articles will be explaining whatever we did.
My next question will be, what should be the role of corporate and CSR in India becoming Atmanirbhar?
Definitely. So see, I think here I would like to, because we spoke about Atmanirbharta a lot, so I think we
Yes.
should also talk about aspirational districts in India,
Hmm.
which is a very good highlight point that you have brought up as well. I think there is a lack of focus on aspirational districts as corporates generally want to do projects in their areas of operations, or where they're
Yeah.
located. So if I
Yes.
am
Yes.
in Bangalore or Pune, I want to do projects in that area.
Nearby vicinity.
Exactly. Now, not their mistake as well. I'll come to that why. But the mindset needs to change to create impact in the ignored cities and states. To give you example, it's just to quantify what I'm saying. So Jharkhand, Bihar, Odisha, and Chhattisgarh account for more than half of the aspirational districts in our country. Yet they account for only 4% of the CSR expenditure. So that tells you that where the actual social, educational, health impact needs to be created is not getting done, because obviously those districts do not have huge industries, and if they had, then they would not be aspirational. So it's a vicious circle that those cities are stuck into. Some cities that are getting attention continue to get more attention. Cities that are not getting attention continue to get lowered attention. Now, coming to the point on why this is not totally the fault of the company's thought process that they want to just do it around their areas of operations. Even as per the act, the company shall give preference to the local areas. Now, contradictory to that, the recent notification, in fact, Niti Aayog has been promoting the role of corporations for the development of aspirational cities. Now, these two things contradict the recent notifications by MCA and what Niti Aayog even says, the two big government think tanks and bodies. Even they are not completely resonating. So we're not saying they're wrong, but I think they need to get into a room, get all the stakeholders together, and have some commitments around this. Otherwise, doing work in aspirational districts will be more like on a charity basis and not committed CSR projects. So I think we need to take note of that for driving. And again, if we are able to deliver successful projects there, it will create so many jobs for so many people who really need it, and completely then in line create social entrepreneurs there and drive the real concepts of Atmanirbhar India.
So my last question will be, our viewers would love to know, since you represent Green Dream Foundation, what is this foundation doing, and what is the major focus of this foundation? Since when I was going through your profile, I left it out to you because you will be the better person to, uh, talk about the work, the innovative things that you did in the development sector since 2008.
Sure, Sandeep. In fact, I'll tell it for the benefit of the audience, but for a majority of our work, you're already aware because when we met last year and you recognized our efforts at the event,
Hmm.
it was a pleasing experience, and our team was very motivated by your gesture and motivation. So thank you so much for that. A
Thank
lot
you.
of new initiatives have launched after that recognition from you.
Hmm.
So I'll just focus on a couple of them in interest of the time. So one of our initiatives, generally I don't bring that initiative up because it's like an event, but
Okay.
it was an initiative called Ecothon that we
Hmm.
did with one of our partners called We Prospers. They're based out of Singapore, and we launched this concept of organizing a first of its kind platform wherein we are just focusing on not the issues but also just bringing in all the solutions under one table. Uh, and this was primarily done with the concept of driving social entrepreneurship and promoting Make in India. Why this happened was because me and my team were traveling across the country and even other Southeast Asian countries. We figured out that a lot of innovative solutions have been launched. Like, you being in this domain would have seen that for every problem there are now 100 solutions available. A lot of young people are stepping up, which is a great news, right? I think every week I come across at least 4 or 5 new innovations, whether they are tackling air pollution or different types of waste, or coming up with sustainable packaging, or driving reduction in carbon footprint. So great stuff happening there, and it's we're all surrounded by it. So that motivated us to create a platform wherein we said, okay, you know what, issues की बात तो हर जगह होती है in every conference. Let's just bring in all the solution makers, and every session will talk about solutions. There'll be an exhibition which will just talk about solutions. So that was one of the initiatives to drive sustainable lifestyle, and those companies even who participated in our platform have come a long way. We had plans to do that event again in the previous quarter, but obviously it's delayed now. So let's see when we can do that. We're not keen on doing that in an online format because of some
Yes.
other reasons. I think so. You might be aware. We ran this webinar series. We've done 8 webinars so far in partnership with Exhibitions India Group, and so we are focusing more on the education side right now to make sure people have the right knowledge. Like I said, to cut misinformation by getting senior public representations, from Ministry of Jal Shakti, Ministry of Environment, Swachh Bharat Mission, and then putting them in front of these social innovations and the policymakers. So that's one of the initiatives, that we did last year. Sorry about that. So Kingdom of Waste is the second program that I would like to educate our audience on. Now, Kingdom of Waste, why we say it's a Kingdom of Waste? Because if someone handles their waste, we'll be able to create a lot of kings
Hmm.
and queens. Why? Because waste is wealth. We have heard about it time and again. But the approach that we are taking here is that we have launched this waste segregation and zero waste program, wherein we realize that a simple action of segregation has a huge impact on the waste pickers. Sorry about that. With the So what happens is, when we're able to segregate the waste, there is more recycling happening, and there are more jobs created for the waste pickers. So again, that focuses on creating livelihoods, creating more sustainable jobs, and living environment for all these people involved. And obviously, the waste worker gets a lot of dignity and better livelihood.
Yes.
Uh, the other one that I could focus on for now is, because the list is long in front of me, but We can always discuss that later. One of them is COVID SOS. So here we brought in the technology intervention. We could see that during COVID, a lot of people were wanting to help a lot of other people, and there were a lot of people who were seeking help, especially the senior citizens, and there were a lot of other distressed citizens. So what basically we started this and there were strict lockdowns that time, right? You cannot just step out of your house. The maximum you could do is just go into the grocery store within your society, or just 200 meters, 300 meters. So what we did was we started building a base of volunteers. So let's say if I was a senior citizen stuck in area A, so capturing the GPS coordinates, we will align them a volunteer within 100 meters of their area, who's not expected to spend anything, but just facilitate in helping or sorting out the problem. Wherein they will, if they wanted to groceries to be delivered, because there were no delivery boys, and the senior citizens cannot step out. So we eventually converted this to a technology platform with the help of some data scientists. Uh, one of our friends, Siddharth, who's a data scientist, jumped in, and within a week we were able to launch this platform and reach out to more than 5,000 people. So now we have basically, even though the lockdowns are now not there, this is an open platform for catering to any kind of requests where volunteers are willing to help. So like and those helps kind of help in creating connections, connecting people in the right domain. So a lot of new things, new stories come in on daily basis. So those are some of the recent initiatives that are there. And if if audience is interested and keen to know more, they can always head to our social media handles, because we are very actively talking about even our upcoming campaigns. Like we're about to launch another campaign focused on driving livelihoods and creating jobs in Noida, Uttar Pradesh. So we'll be posting updates about that very soon.
Thank you, Mr. Sachdev, for your insights. To sum up this entire show, we discussed about meticulously spending the CSR funds, around 25,000 crores, which comes from the corporate CSR kitty. It should be properly utilized. Then we saw that aspirational districts, there should be a complete focus. Rural India should be given more priority. And secondly, what we have seen is more development in the rural area, agriculture, and simplifying rules for better productivity in the rural sector. If rural India is growing, and if we are going to skill the rural India people and educate them, this will really create a better awareness for Atmanirbhar Bharat. And corporates has to play a major role while doing the CSR activities, as we discussed, that it's not only in the vicinity of their factories or in the area where they are placed, but also take up some more aspirational districts and try to develop them. And then we can see a lot of development taking place all across the country. So it's really a pleasure, Mr. Sachdev, to talk to you. And we are very thankful for your time that you gave us for this evening chat. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sandeep, for creating this platform. Stay in touch.